I never thought my wedding day would become the day I exposed my fiancé as a cheating, lying, gold-digging fraud in front of 200 guests. But sometimes life forces you to choose between living a lie and standing up for the truth. What I discovered the night before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life still gives me chills. Stay until the end because what I did at the altar will shock you, and what my cat Oliver tried to tell me for months will make you never ignore your pet's instincts again. I'm Rebecca, and this is the story of how I went from blushing bride to badass woman in less than 24 hours, and how my cat saved me from the biggest mistake of my life. In this video I'll tell you exactly what I found in those text messages that shattered my world, how my fiancé had been planning to financially destroy me all along, and the moment I decided to turn my wedding into his public humiliation. But most importantly, I'll show you how my cat Oliver had been trying to warn me about Alexander's true nature for months, and why I should have listened to him from the very beginning. If you've ever ignored your pet's warnings about someone, give this video a like and subscribe because this story might save you from your own disaster. Let me take you back to the beginning of what I thought was a beautiful love story. Alexander and I had been together for 3 years, and for 2 of those years, I genuinely believed I was living in a fairy tale romance. He was everything I thought I wanted in a husband: charming, successful, devastatingly handsome, with the kind of confidence that made heads turn when he walked into a room. Alexander worked as a senior financial advisor at one of Manhattan's most prestigious investment firms. He drove a sleek black BMW, lived in a luxury apartment on the Upper East Side, and always seemed to know exactly the right thing to say in any situation. He was the kind of man who could make a woman feel like she was the only person in the room, even when surrounded by hundreds of people. We met on what started as one of the worst days of my life. I was sitting in a small coffee shop in Midtown, frantically trying to salvage a presentation for my marketing job that had somehow corrupted on my laptop. I was cursing under my breath, near tears, knowing that I had a crucial client meeting in 2 hours and my entire pitch had vanished into digital oblivion. That's when Alexander appeared like something out of a romantic movie. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through to my soul. "Excuse me," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "I couldn't help but notice you're having some technical difficulties. I'm pretty good with computers. Mind if I take a look?" Within 10 minutes he had not only recovered my presentation but had somehow made it run faster than it ever had before. I was so grateful I could have kissed him right there in the middle of the coffee shop. "You're a lifesaver," I told him, feeling a rush of relief and something else I couldn't quite identify. "I don't know how to thank you." He smiled, and it was like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "How about dinner tonight? I know a place that serves the best Italian food in the city, and you look like someone who deserves better than instant coffee and computer crashes." That first date lasted until 3 in the morning. We talked about everything: our careers, our dreams, our families, our fears. Alexander was intelligent, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in everything I had to say. He asked thoughtful questions about my work in marketing, laughed at my jokes, and made me feel like I was the most fascinating woman he'd ever met. By our 3rd date I was completely smitten. By our 10th I was falling in love. Alexander had a way of making every moment feel special and significant. He would surprise me with flowers delivered to my office, take me to exclusive restaurants I'd only read about in magazines, and plan elaborate weekend getaways to charming bed and breakfasts in the countryside. Tell me in the comments, has your pet ever disliked someone you were dating? I wish I had listened to the signs. Within 6 months, Alexander had practically moved into my apartment. Within a year we were talking seriously about marriage and our future together. Within 2 years he proposed with a stunning 2-carat diamond ring at Le Bernardin, the most expensive restaurant in the city, with a violinist playing our song and rose petals scattered across the table. The proposal was everything I had ever dreamed of. Alexander got down on one knee right there in the middle of the restaurant, with dozens of other diners watching and applauding. The ring was absolutely gorgeous. A perfect round diamond in a platinum setting that caught the light and sparkled like captured starlight. "Rebecca," he said, his voice trembling with what I thought was emotion, "you're the love of my life, my soulmate, my everything. I can't imagine spending another day without you as my wife. Will you marry me?" Of course I said yes. How could I not? I was madly in love with this incredible man who seemed to love me just as much in return. But looking back now, I realized there was one major red flag that I consistently ignored, dismissed, and rationalized away. My cat Oliver absolutely, completely, and utterly despised Alexander from the very first moment they met. Oliver was a 5-year-old Siamese cat who had been my constant companion since my senior year of college. I had adopted him from a shelter when he was just 8 weeks old, fluff with enormous blue eyes and But looking back now, I realized there was one major red flag that I consistently ignored, dismissed, and rationalized away. My cat Oliver absolutely, completely, and utterly despised Alexander from the very first moment they met. Oliver was a 5-year-old Siamese cat who had been my constant companion since my senior year of college. I had adopted him from a shelter when he was just 8 weeks old, fluff with enormous blue eyes and a personality bigger than his small body. Over the years, Oliver had become more than just a pet. He was my confidant, my comfort during difficult times, and my most loyal friend. Oliver was naturally social and friendly with everyone who came into our home. He loved meeting new people, would immediately approach visitors with his tail held high and purring loudly, and had never met a stranger he didn't like. My friends joked that Oliver was a better host than I was because he would greet guests at the door and follow them around, demanding attention and pets. But the moment Alexander walked into my apartment for our first at-home date, Oliver's entire demeanor changed dramatically. The cat who had never met a stranger took one look at Alexander and immediately hissed, a sound I had never heard him make before. His back arched, his fur stood on end, and he retreated under my bed, where he remained hidden for the entire evening. "That's so weird," I told Alexander, feeling embarrassed and confused by my normally social cat's behavior. "Oliver is usually incredibly friendly with everyone. He must be having an off day." Alexander laughed it off with that charming smile that made my knees weak. "Don't worry about it, sweetheart. Animals can sense when someone's an alpha male. He's probably just intimidated by my presence. It's actually a sign of respect in the animal kingdom." His explanation sounded reasonable at the time, and I wanted to believe it because I was so infatuated with this amazing man who had swept me off my feet. But Oliver's behavior toward Alexander never improved. In fact, it got progressively worse as their relationship continued. Every time Alexander came over to my apartment, Oliver would disappear completely. I would find him hiding in the most unusual places, squeezed into the back of my closet, under the bathroom sink, or even inside the linen cabinet. He would stay hidden until Alexander left, and only then would he emerge, seeming nervous and agitated for hours afterward. When Alexander started staying overnight regularly, Oliver's behavior became even more concerning. He began acting out in ways that were completely unlike his normal personality. He would knock over Alexander's coffee cup every morning without fail. He would scratch Alexander's favorite leather jacket that hung in my closet. He would jump onto Alexander's laptop keyboard while he was working, causing him to lose documents and become frustrated. If you're enjoying this story so far, hit that like button and let me know in the comments if you want to hear more stories like this one. The most disturbing incident happened about 6 months into our relationship. I came home from work to find that Oliver had urinated in Alexander's expensive Italian leather shoes, something he had never done before in his entire life. Oliver was perfectly house-trained and had never had an accident in my apartment. Alexander was furious. "That cat has serious behavioral issues, Rebecca," he said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "This kind of destructive behavior isn't normal. Maybe we should think about finding him a new home where he'll be happier." The suggestion hit me like a physical blow. "Oliver isn't going anywhere," I said firmly. He's been my family for 5 years. He's not just a pet, he's part of who I am. Alexander's expression softened immediately and he pulled me into his arms. Of course, baby. I completely understand. I would never ask you to choose between us. We'll work through this together. Maybe we just need to give him more time to adjust to having me around. But as time went on, I started noticing other strange behaviors from Oliver that I had never seen before. He would position himself physically between Alexander and me whenever we were sitting on the couch together, as if he was trying to protect me from something. He would meow loudly and persistently whenever Alexander was talking on the phone in private, almost like he was trying to interrupt or get my attention. Most unsettling of all, I would sometimes catch Oliver staring at Alexander with an intensity that seemed almost human. His blue eyes would be fixed on Alexander's face with a focus that made me uncomfortable, like he was studying him, trying to figure something out, or seeing something that I couldn't see. "Your cat is seriously creepy," Alexander said one evening after catching Oliver staring at him. "The way he looks at me sometimes, it's like he's plotting something." I laughed it off, but privately I was starting to worry that something was genuinely wrong with Oliver. I made an appointment with our veterinarian, Dr. Martinez, to see if there might be a medical reason for his behavioral changes. Dr. Martinez examined Oliver thoroughly and ran several tests, but everything came back completely normal. "Physically, Oliver is in perfect health," she told me. "Sometimes cats can become stressed by major changes in their environment, like a new person moving into their territory. But his behavior sounds more protective than aggressive. Has this man given you any reason to feel uncomfortable or unsafe?" The question caught me off guard. "No, of course not. Alexander is wonderful. We're getting married next year." Dr. Martinez nodded, but I noticed she looked thoughtful. Cats have incredibly keen instincts about people. They can pick up on subtle cues that humans miss, changes in body language, tone of voice, even chemical signals like pheromones that indicate stress or deception. If Oliver is consistently reacting negatively to this person, it might be worth paying attention to what he's trying to tell you. I left the vet's office feeling more confused than ever. On one hand, I had this amazing relationship with a man I loved deeply and planned to marry. On the other hand, I had a cat who had never been wrong about people before suddenly acting like Alexander was dangerous. I decided to trust my heart over my pet's instincts. Looking back now, that was the biggest mistake I ever made. Subscribe to the channel if you want to know what those messages revealed. Trust me, you won't believe what I found. As our wedding date approached, Alexander became increasingly involved in our financial planning. At first it seemed sweet and responsible, the kind of thing a caring fiancé would naturally want to discuss. "We should start thinking about combining our finances," he said one evening about 6 months before our wedding. "I work in finance, so I understand investments and portfolio management better than most people. I could help you optimize your savings and make sure we're making the smartest decisions with our money." It made sense. Alexander was a financial professional with years of experience managing wealthy clients' portfolios. I worked in marketing and had never been particularly savvy about investments or financial planning. Having someone I loved and trusted help me make better decisions with my money seemed like a smart idea. "I think that's a great idea," I told him. "I've always been intimidated by all the investment stuff. Having you help me navigate it would be amazing." Alexander's smile was warm and reassuring. "We're going to be married soon anyway. What's mine is yours and what's yours is mine, right? This is just making it official and ensuring we're building the strongest possible financial foundation for our future together." Over the next several months, Alexander gradually convinced me to give him access to more and more of my financial accounts. First, it was just my checking account so he could help me set up automatic bill payments and budgeting systems. Then it was my savings account so he could help me find better interest rates and investment opportunities. Eventually, he convinced me to add his name to my investment portfolio and even to my grandmother's inheritance fund, a substantial amount of money that my grandmother had left me when she passed away 2 years earlier. The inheritance was worth nearly $300,000, money that I had been saving for our future home and children. "This inheritance is our security blanket," Alexander said as I signed the paperwork to add him to the account. "With my financial expertise and this nest egg, we'll be able to buy an amazing house, maybe even start investing in real estate. We're going to build something incredible together." I was so in love, so excited about our future, and so trusting that I didn't question any of it. Alexander was going to be my husband in just a few months. Sharing our financial resources seemed like the natural next step in our relationship. Meanwhile, Oliver's behavior toward Alexander was becoming more extreme and concerning. He had started knocking things off Alexander's desk whenever he was working from my apartment, hiding important documents that Alexander needed for work, and once even knocked Alexander's laptop off the coffee table, cracking the screen and causing him to lose several hours of work. "That cat is completely out of control," Alexander said after the laptop incident, his voice cold with anger. "He's not just acting out anymore, he's being deliberately destructive and malicious. After the wedding, we need to seriously consider our options." The way he said "options" sent a chill down my spine, but I pushed the uncomfortable feeling away. I was getting married in just 3 weeks. Everything was supposed to be perfect, and I didn't want to deal with the stress of conflict between my fiancé and my pet. "Maybe we could try some behavioral training," I suggested weakly. "Or ask Dr. Martinez about anti-anxiety medication for cats." Alexander nodded, but his expression remained cold. "We'll figure something out. But Rebecca, you need to understand that I won't tolerate this kind of behavior in our home after we're married. A marriage is between two people, not two people and a cat." The comments stung, but I told myself that Alexander was just frustrated and stressed about the wedding planning. Once we were married and settled into our new life together, everything would work itself out. The night before our wedding, I was staying at my maid of honor Jessica's apartment for the traditional bride's last night of freedom. We had ordered Chinese takeout, opened a bottle of champagne, and were doing clay face masks while watching romantic comedies and talking about how excited I was to finally marry the love of my life. "I can't believe tomorrow is actually happening," I told Jessica, feeling giddy with anticipation. "After tomorrow, I'll be Mrs. Alexander Hamilton. It sounds so perfect, doesn't it?" Jessica smiled, but I noticed something in her expression that seemed a little forced. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Becca? I mean, I know you love him, but are you sure he's the right person for you?" The question surprised me. "Of course I'm sure. Why would you ask that?" "I don't know," Jessica said, looking uncomfortable. "There's just something about Alexander that I can't put my finger on. He's charming and handsome and successful, but sometimes when he thinks no one is looking, his expression changes. And the way he talks about Oliver, it makes me uncomfortable." I felt a flash of irritation. "Jessica, you're being ridiculous. Alexander is amazing. Just because he's not a cat person doesn't make him a bad guy. Not everyone has to love pets the way we do." I know," Jessica said quickly. "I'm probably just being overprotective. Ignore me. Tomorrow is going to be perfect." Around 11 p.m. my phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. The message was simple but ominous. "You need to see this before tomorrow. I'm sorry. Someone who cares." Attached to the message was a screenshot of text conversations. My hands started shaking as I opened the attachment, not knowing that I was about to see evidence that would destroy everything I thought I knew about the man I was planning to marry in less than 15 hours. Give this video a like if you can't believe what Alexander was planning. But wait, it gets worse. The screenshot showed a text conversation between Alexander and someone saved in his phone as "my everything" with a heart emoji. The messages were from earlier that day, just hours before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. "Alexander, one more day and then we're set for life, beautiful. My everything. I can't believe she actually gave you access to everything. You're more convincing than I thought possible. Alexander, I told you Rebecca was gullible. The inheritance alone is worth 300K, plus her investment portfolio and savings. We're talking about close to $500,000 total. My everything, and she has no idea about us? About what you're really planning? Alexander, none whatsoever. She's so busy obsessing over this ridiculous wedding that she doesn't notice anything else. After tomorrow I'll have legal spousal access to everything. We can clean out all the accounts and be on a plane to Costa Rica by Monday morning. My everything, what about that prenup her father wanted her to get? Alexander, there is no prenup. I convinced her it wasn't romantic and that it showed a lack of trust in our relationship. She signed everything over willingly. Legally, the moment we say, I do, I'll have access to her entire financial portfolio. My everything, you're absolutely diabolical. I love it. I can't wait to spend her money on our new life together in paradise. Alexander, the best part is that she'll be so humiliated and financially destroyed that she'll never recover. Sweet revenge for making me pretend to love her pathetic self for 3 whole years. My everything, poor little Rebecca. She has no idea what's coming tomorrow. Alexander, by the time she figures out what happened, we'll be sipping cocktails on a beach in Costa Rica and she'll be broke, alone, and completely ruined. I dropped my phone like it was on fire, my entire body going numb with shock. Jessica looked at me and immediately saw that something was terribly wrong. Rebecca? What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. I just handed her my phone with trembling hands. Oh my God, Jessica whispered as she read the messages. Oh my God, Rebecca. Who sent this to you? I couldn't answer. I was too busy trying to process the fact that everything I thought I knew about my life was a complete lie. If this story is making you angry, share it with every woman you know. We need to protect each other from predators like Alexander. Jessica helped me scroll through more screenshots that the anonymous sender had provided. There were dozens of messages spanning back several months, showing a detailed and calculated plan to defraud me of everything I owned. The messages revealed that Alexander and this woman, whose real name appeared to be Vanessa, had been in a relationship for over 2 years, which meant they had been together for almost our entire relationship. Every business trip Alexander had taken, every late night at the office, every weekend he said he was visiting his parents, he had been with her. But the financial fraud was even more devastating than the infidelity. They had researched my assets extensively, planned exactly how to access everything, and even consulted with lawyers about legal ways to ensure I couldn't recover the money once they disappeared with it. Alexander, the beauty of this plan is that it's all completely legal. She's willingly giving me access to everything through marriage. Once we're legally wed, I can transfer everything to offshore accounts that she'll never be able to touch. Vanessa, what if she tries to fight it legally? Alexander, with what money? She'll be completely broke and emotionally destroyed. Who's going to believe her sob story? I'll be the heartbroken husband whose mentally unstable wife had a complete breakdown and started making wild accusations. Vanessa, you've thought of everything. Alexander, I've been planning this for 2 years. Every romantic gesture, every I love you, every moment of this entire relationship has been building toward tomorrow. She's about to fund our entire future without even knowing it. The messages got worse as I kept reading. They mocked me relentlessly, calling me the piggy bank and the mark. Alexander described in humiliating detail how easy it was to manipulate me, how pathetic I was for believing his lies, and how he had to force himself not to laugh when I talked about our future together. Alexander, she actually thinks I'm attracted to her. It's almost sad how desperate she is for love. Vanessa, how do you even stand touching her? Alexander, I just close my eyes and think about you and about all the money we're going to have. Tomorrow can't come fast enough. Vanessa, what if she somehow finds out before the wedding? Alexander, she won't. She's too trusting and naive. Even that damn cat of hers has been trying to warn her for months and she's too stupid to understand what he's telling her. That line hit me like a physical blow. Even Alexander knew that Oliver had been trying to protect me from him. I kept reading, discovering that they had been documenting my daily routines, my work schedule, my social activities, everything they needed to know to execute their plan perfectly. They had even taken photos together in places I recognized, including my own apartment when I wasn't home. Alexander had been bringing this woman into my home, into my bed, laughing about me while surrounded by my personal belongings. But the most chilling part was reading their detailed escape plan. They had already booked flights to Costa Rica under false names, set up offshore bank accounts, and even researched how to assume new identities once they got there. They had planned every detail of how to disappear with my money and start a new life together while leaving me with nothing. Alexander, by next week Rebecca will be a broke, humiliated laughingstock, and will be living like royalty in paradise. I almost feel bad for her. Almost. Vanessa, don't feel bad. She's an adult who made her own choices. It's not your fault she was stupid enough to trust you with everything. Alexander, you're right. She deserves what's coming to her. Leave a comment if you think you know what I did next. But I guarantee you won't see this coming. I spent the rest of the night crying, raging, and planning my response. Jessica held me while I sobbed, brought me tissues and water, and helped me think through my options. We have to call the police, she said. And tell them what? That my fiancé is planning to legally steal my money after we get married? Everything he's planning to do would be completely legal once I say, I do. The police can't arrest someone for planning to access their spouse's money. Then we call off the wedding. Right now. We'll send a message to all the guests, cancel everything and you'll be safe. I considered it, but then I thought about all the people who had traveled from across the country to be there, all the money that had been spent on the venue and catering, all the vendors who had been working for months to make this day perfect. More than that, I thought about Alexander getting away with his plan to humiliate and destroy me. No, I said, my voice getting stronger. I have a better idea. By 6 a.m., I had made my decision and formulated my plan. Jessica, I need you to help me with something. And I need you to trust me completely, even if what I'm asking seems crazy. The wedding was scheduled for 2 p.m. at St. Catherine's Cathedral, a beautiful old church in the heart of the city. We had invited 200 guests, planned a 5-course dinner reception at the Plaza Hotel, hired a 12-piece orchestra, and arranged for a photographer whose work had been featured in Vogue. Everything was paid for, everything was ready, and everyone was expecting the wedding of the century. Alexander had no idea that I knew about his plan. That morning he texted me, "Good morning, my beautiful bride. I can't wait to marry you today and start our life together. You're about to make me the happiest man alive." Reading that message, knowing what I now knew about his true intentions, made me feel physically sick. But it also strengthened my resolve to go through with my plan. I got ready methodically like I was preparing for battle. I put on my $3,000 Vera Wang wedding dress, my grandmother's pearl necklace, and the diamond earrings Alexander had given me for our first anniversary, which I now realized he had probably bought with money he was planning to steal from me. Hit that subscribe button because what happened next is going to blow your mind. At 1:30 p.m. I arrived at the cathedral. Alexander was already there, looking devastatingly handsome in his custom-made tuxedo, greeting guests and playing the part of the nervous, excited groom to perfection. When he saw me, his face lit up with what I now knew was greed rather than love. He kissed me on the cheek and whispered, "You look absolutely stunning, my love. I'm the luckiest man in the world to be marrying you today." I smiled back at him. "You have no idea what's about to happen." He laughed, thinking I was talking about the ceremony and our future together. I had asked Jessica to make sure that the church's sound system was connected to my phone, ostensibly so we could play our special song during the ceremony. What Alexander didn't know was that I had a very different use planned for that sound system. At exactly 2 p.m. the traditional wedding march began playing. I walked down the aisle on my father's arm, looking at all the faces of our family and friends who had come to celebrate what they thought was going to be the happiest day of my life. Alexander's face was absolutely glowing as he watched me approach the altar. I could see the greed and anticipation in his eyes, though I'm sure everyone else interpreted it as love and joy. When I reached the altar, Father Mackenzie began the traditional ceremony. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Rebecca and Alexander in holy matrimony. I let him get through the opening remarks and the reading from Corinthians about love. I wanted everyone to be settled in their seats, everyone to be paying complete attention to what was happening at the altar. Then when Father Mackenzie asked if anyone present had any reason why Alexander and I should not be joined in marriage, I spoke up clearly and loudly. Actually, Father Mackenzie, I do. The entire cathedral went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. 200 people held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I turned to face the congregation, my heart pounding with adrenaline but my voice steady and strong. I'm sorry that everyone traveled here today and took time out of their lives to attend what they thought was going to be a wedding. Unfortunately, there's not going to be a wedding today. Last night, I discovered that Alexander has been cheating on me for over 2 years with another woman, and that he was planning to steal all of my money and disappear with her immediately after our ceremony today. Gasps and shocked murmurs rippled through the cathedral. Alexander's face went from confusion to panic to rage in the span of about 3 seconds. "Rebecca, what are you doing?" he hissed, grabbing my arm. "You're having some kind of breakdown. This isn't real. You're being hysterical." I pulled my arm free and stepped away from him. "Oh, it's very real, Alexander. And I have proof." I pulled out my phone, which Jessica had already connected to the church's sound system, and addressed the congregation. "I'm going to share some text messages that Alexander sent yesterday, the day before our wedding, to his mistress. I think you all deserve to know exactly what kind of man you came here to celebrate today. If you're loving this revenge story, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you would have done." I started reading directly from Alexander's phone, my voice carrying clearly through the cathedral's speakers. "One more day and then we're set for life, beautiful." Alexander lunged for my phone, but my father and my brother stepped in front of him, blocking his path to me. I continued reading. "I told you Rebecca was gullible. The inheritance alone is worth $300K, plus her investment portfolio and savings. We're talking about close to $500,000 total." The congregation was in complete shock. I could see Alexander's mother covering her face with her hands, my mother looking like she wanted to murder him with her bare hands, and his groomsmen backing away from him like he had suddenly become radioactive. But I wasn't finished. I had hours of messages to share and I was going to make sure everyone heard exactly who Alexander really was. After tomorrow I'll have legal spousal access to everything. We can clean out all the accounts and be on a plane to Costa Rica by Monday morning. Alexander tried to speak, tried to deny what I was reading, but the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. The best part is that she'll be so humiliated and financially destroyed that she'll never recover. Sweet revenge for making me pretend to love her pathetic self for 3 whole years. By this point, half the congregation was on their feet. Alexander's own family members were staring at him in horror and disgust. His groomsmen had completely distanced themselves from him, and several people were shouting angry comments in his direction. I kept reading, sharing message after message that revealed not just the cheating but the detailed financial fraud he had planned, the cruel way he had mocked me behind my back, and the calculated nature of his deception. She actually thinks I'm attracted to her. It's almost sad how desperate she is for love. My voice was getting stronger and more confident with each revelation. This man had planned to destroy my life, and now I was returning the favor in front of everyone who mattered to both of us. Even that damn cat of hers has been trying to warn her for months and she's too stupid to understand what he's telling her. I paused after reading that particular message and looked directly at Alexander. You know what, Alexander? You're absolutely right. Oliver was trying to warn me about you. Animals can sense evil and you are pure, concentrated evil. I should have listened to my cat from the very beginning, because he saw right through your act when I was too blinded by what I thought was love. The cathedral erupted in angry shouts and accusations directed at Alexander. People were standing up, pointing at him, expressing their outrage and disgust at what they had just heard. Alexander made one final desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Rebecca, please, you have to listen to me. We can work this out. This is all just a terrible misunderstanding. Those messages, they're not what they seem. Someone is trying to sabotage our relationship. I looked at him with all the contempt I felt and spoke into the microphone so everyone could hear me clearly. The only misunderstanding here, Alexander, was me thinking that you were a decent human being instead of a lying, cheating, manipulative sociopath. But don't worry, I'm not going to let you leave here without everyone knowing exactly who you really are. I had one more surprise for him. Earlier that morning, Jessica had helped me contact several of Alexander's colleagues from his investment firm. It turned out that attempting to defraud your fiancé doesn't look good to employers who are responsible for managing other people's money and maintaining client trust. Security, please escort Mr. Hamilton from the premises, I announced. And Alexander, you might want to check your voicemail. I believe your employer left you several messages this morning after I shared these text messages with your managing director. Jessica had arranged for security guards to be present, anticipating that Alexander might cause a scene when his plan was exposed. They moved in and began escorting him toward the exit while he screamed threats, denials, and accusations. "You'll pay for this, Rebecca," he shouted as they dragged him away. "I'll sue you for defamation. I'll ruin you." "Good luck with that," I called back. "I'll be sure to bring these text messages as evidence. Share this video with every woman who needs to know that her pets might be trying to protect her from the wrong man." After Alexander was removed from the cathedral, I addressed the congregation one final time. "I want to apologize to everyone who came here today expecting to attend a wedding and instead got what probably felt like an episode of a daytime talk show. But I also want you to know that I'm not embarrassed or ashamed of what just happened. I'm grateful that I discovered the truth before I made the biggest mistake of my life." I paused, looking out at all the faces of people I cared about who had come to support what they thought was going to be one of the happiest days of my life. The reception is still happening. All the food has been paid for, the band is already set up, and honestly, I think we should celebrate. We're going to celebrate the fact that I dodged the biggest bullet of my life, that I'm free from a man who would have destroyed me, and that I have all of you in my life to support me through something like this. The applause that followed was thunderous and sustained. People were cheering, crying, and shouting words of support and encouragement. My father came up to me with tears streaming down his face. "I have never been more proud of you in my entire life, sweetheart. What you just did took incredible courage and strength. I learned from the best, Dad. You and Mom taught me never to let anyone treat me as less than I deserve." My mother wrapped me in the biggest hug of my life. "That man never deserved you, honey. I always had a feeling something wasn't right about him, but I didn't want to interfere. I should have trusted my instincts. It's okay, Mom. The important thing is that I found out before it was too late." The reception turned into the most incredible celebration I had ever experienced. Instead of mourning the end of my relationship or feeling humiliated by the public exposure of Alexander's betrayal, everyone was celebrating my escape and my strength in standing up for myself. People I barely knew were coming up to me throughout the evening to tell me how brave I was, how impressed they were by my handling of the situation, and how Alexander had never deserved someone as amazing as me. My friends and family rallied around me completely, and even some of Alexander's own relatives approached me to apologize for his behavior and express their support. But the best moment of the entire day came when I finally got home that night, emotionally exhausted but feeling more empowered and free than I had in years. Oliver was waiting for me at the front door, and for the first time in over 3 years he seemed completely relaxed and at peace. His whole body language was different. His tail was up, his ears were forward, and he was purring loudly before I even touched him. "I'm so sorry I didn't listen to you, buddy," I whispered as I scooped him up in my arms. "You were trying to save me all along and I was too blind to see it." He looked up at me with those wise blue eyes and I swear he seemed to be saying, "I told you so, but I'm just glad you finally figured it out." Let me know in the comments. Do you think animals can sense when people have bad intentions? Oliver was absolutely right about Alexander. The aftermath of my wedding day revelation was swift and satisfying in ways I couldn't have imagined. Alexander tried to contact me dozens of times over the following weeks, alternating between furious threats and pathetic pleas for forgiveness. His messages ranged from, "You've ruined my life and I'll make you pay," to, "Please give me another chance, I can explain everything," to, "I really did love you, this was all Vanessa's idea." I blocked him on every platform and social media account, changed my phone number, and had my lawyer send him a cease and desist letter threatening legal action if he continued to harass me. The anonymous person who had sent me the screenshots turned out to be Vanessa's ex-boyfriend, Marcus, who had discovered their affair when he found text messages on her phone. He had been collecting evidence for weeks, waiting for the right moment to expose both of them and get his revenge. "I couldn't let them destroy your life the way they destroyed mine," Marcus told me when he finally revealed his identity. Vanessa had been cheating on me with Alexander for months, and I knew they were planning something terrible. When I saw the wedding announcement in the newspaper, I realized I had to warn you. Alexander's reputation in the financial industry was completely destroyed within days of the wedding incident. Word spread quickly through Manhattan's tight-knit finance community about what he had attempted to do, and his firm fired him immediately to protect their own reputation and client relationships. Apparently, attempting to defraud your fiancé doesn't inspire confidence in clients who trust you with their investment portfolios. Several of his existing clients requested new advisors, and he was essentially blacklisted from working at any reputable firm in the city. Vanessa dumped him immediately when she realized that their plan had failed spectacularly and there would be no money to steal and no luxury vacation to Costa Rica. It turned out that she had only been interested in him for the financial gain he promised, and without that incentive she wanted nothing to do with him. The poetic justice was that Alexander found himself in exactly the situation he had planned for me, broke, humiliated, and alone. I took immediate action to protect myself financially. I changed all my passwords, removed Alexander's access from every single account, moved all my money to a completely different bank, and worked with my lawyer to understand exactly what legal protections I had. Since we had never actually gotten married, Alexander had no legal claim to any of my assets. All the paperwork he had convinced me to sign giving him access to my accounts was contingent on our marriage being completed, so everything reverted back to my sole ownership. The best part was that I got to keep the engagement ring. Legally, an engagement ring is considered a conditional gift, meaning the recipient only has to return it if they're the one who breaks off the engagement. Since Alexander was the one who committed fraud and betrayal, I had no legal obligation to give it back. I sold the ring and donated the entire proceeds to the local animal shelter in Oliver's name, specifically to fund a program that helps people keep their pets during financial hardships. If this story inspired you, give it a like and subscribe for more stories about trusting your instincts and your pets. 6 months after the wedding that never was, my life had completely transformed in the most positive ways imaginable. I met James at a dog park on a sunny Saturday afternoon. I was there with Oliver, who had become much more social and confident since Alexander was no longer in our lives. Oliver was actually approaching other people and animals, something he hadn't done in years. James was there with his golden retriever Max, and I noticed immediately how gentle and patient he was with his dog. When Max got excited and jumped on other people, James apologized sincerely and worked to redirect his behavior without getting angry or embarrassed. The first thing that caught my attention was how Oliver reacted to James. My cat, who had been so suspicious of Alexander from day one, walked directly up to James and started purring and rubbing against his legs. It was like Oliver was giving his stamp of approval. "That's unusual," James said, laughing as Oliver continued to demand attention from him. "Most cats are pretty wary of strangers. He seems to really like me." "He's an excellent judge of character," I told James. "If Oliver approves of you, that's a very good sign." James bent down to pet Oliver, who immediately started purring even louder and rolling over to show his belly, a sign of complete trust that he had never shown to Alexander in 3 years. "I've always believed that pets are incredible judges of people," James said. "They can sense things about character and intentions that we humans often miss. If this guy likes me, I must be doing something right." We ended up talking for over 2 hours while our pets played together. James was kind, funny, intelligent, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me as a person rather than trying to impress me with stories about his job or his possessions. When he asked for my number, Oliver actually meowed as if he was encouraging me to say yes. James and I have been together for over a year now, and it's the healthiest, most honest relationship I've ever experienced. He loves Oliver, Oliver adores him, and I've learned to completely trust my pet's instincts about people. We're talking about moving in together, and James has never once suggested that Oliver should go anywhere or that my cat is a problem to be solved. In fact, he bought Oliver a new cat tree for Christmas and refers to him as "our boy" when talking to other people. That's how I know James is the real deal, not just because of how he treats me but because of how he treats my cat and how my cat responds to him. Share your own stories in the comments. Has your pet ever saved you from a bad relationship? I want to hear about it. Looking back on everything that happened, I realized that Oliver had been trying to protect me from Alexander from the very first day they met. Every knocked-over coffee cup, every scratched piece of clothing, every time he positioned himself between us on the couch, he was trying to tell me that something was fundamentally wrong with this man. Animals have instincts and perceptions that we humans have lost through centuries of civilization and rational thinking. They can sense deception, manipulation, and malicious intentions in ways that our logical minds often can't process or accept. Oliver wasn't being jealous or territorial or difficult. He was being protective. He could sense that Alexander was dangerous to me even when I couldn't see it myself. Dogs and cats communicate primarily through body language, energy, and subtle chemical signals. They don't get fooled by charming words, expensive gifts, or smooth talking. They can't be manipulated by someone who knows how to say all the right things. They see straight through to a person's true character and intentions. Alexander was absolutely right about one thing in those text messages. Oliver had been trying to warn me for months, and I was too blinded by what I thought was love to understand what my cat was telling me. But I understand now, and I will never ignore those warnings again. If your pet consistently dislikes someone you're dating or considering marrying, pay serious attention to their behavior. If they act out only around that specific person, if they seem stressed or unhappy when that person is in your home, if they try to position themselves between you and that person, trust their instincts. Your pet loves you unconditionally and wants to protect you from harm. They're not being difficult for no reason. They're trying to save you from someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. If this story opened your eyes about listening to your pets, smash that like button and share it with everyone you know. Today I'm happier and more fulfilled than I've ever been in my life. I have a partner who truly loves and respects me, a cat who is my hero and protector, and the confidence that comes from knowing I can trust my own instincts and the wisdom of those who love me most. I also have an incredible story about the time I turned my wedding into my ex-fiance's public humiliation and financial ruin, which never fails to entertain people at parties. But most importantly, I learned that sometimes the best advice and protection comes from someone who can't speak human language but loves you enough to keep trying to communicate in every way they know how. Oliver saved me from financial ruin, emotional abuse, and years of living a complete lie with a man who saw me as nothing more than a source of money to steal. He's not just my pet, he's my guardian, my protector, and my furry angel who saw through Alexander's deception when I was too trusting to see it myself. Trust your pets when they try to warn you about people. Listen to their behavior, pay attention to their reactions, and take their instincts seriously. They're trying to protect you because they love you. And remember, if someone doesn't like your pet and your pet doesn't like them, that's all the red flag you need to know that person isn't right for you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more incredible true stories like this one. And tell me in the comments, what's the most dramatic thing your pet has ever done to try to protect you from someone? I read every single comment and I want to hear your stories. Never ignore the warnings. Your pet might just save your life, your heart, and your bank account. Trust the animals who love you. They see what we sometimes can't.